Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're looking at François Hollande's presidency. It's a little past the midway point, and we're wondering, was he right to steer to the center? His prime minister getting a vote of confidence after a purge of hard-left socialist ministers from the cabinet. With us to talk about it, Corinne Narassiguin, spokesperson for the Socialist Party. With us, Clément Sénéchal of the Party of the Left, and Elisabeth Moutet, columnist for the Sunday Telegraph, and also with us, Philippe Moreau-Chevrolet with Le Plus, the Nouvel Observateur's interactive website, Nouvel Observateur, French news weekly magazine. It's interesting because you had a president who started to go back up in the polls after that purge. He seemed, pollsters said he showed decisiveness. Then came the book. Her book, former first partner, Valérie Trierwieler, describing Hollande as a man who shows disdain for the poor, calling them toothless, and with lots of bits like, does it take long to make yourself beautiful, says Hollande at one point. That's it, it's all that's asked of you. Vitriol throughout this tome by Valérie Trierwieler, with a president who's at 13% in the polls. Will this book damage him further?
Yes, apparently it has damage in the polls. I mean, he lost some ground in the ranks of the Socialist Party, in the polls at least from since the publication of the book, since the book was out. And of course, because before that, the only thing he had for him was he was kind of nice. The people were thinking that he was a nice guy after all. Maybe not that efficient, maybe not that presidential-like, but nice. And now the Mr. Nice Guy has disappeared because of that book. Valérie Trierwieler, it's like Agatha Christie, you know, it's a perfect political mystery, perfect political crime. She killed him in a way with that.
Because she wrote the book in secret.
Yeah, she wrote the book in secret. Everything was secret, and she published it. She published it now in the beginning of the political. You know, we call it the rentrée, la rentrée politique. It's the political
back to school.
Yeah, back to school for politicians. She did it right now, and it's really something. She wanted to kill him.
And Elisabeth Moutet, if those economic policies suddenly start working, will this book be forgotten?
To some extent, yes. I mean, it really would have to work. But yes, I think people would like to have good news, and the effect won't be the same. But right now, what's absolutely fascinating is you've got this man who campaigned as being the normal president, as opposed to the bling president Nicolas Sarkozy. Nicolas Sarkozy is positively uxorious next to François Hollande, and she shot him down on the left. And that is really fascinating because that was not expected. Because this book actually is not such a bad book. It's not written like something that would get the Nobel Prize, but it's a Balzac story. It's an old mistress, and there's a Balzac novel called that. And there's revenge, there's class contempt, there's power, there's hypocrisy, there's money, there's jealousy, there's a never lover.
There's a passionate kiss. There's a passionate
because there's everything. It is absolutely fascinating. What's really interesting is that where she hits with a kind of truth. I mean, I used to read her pieces every month in Paris Match, and
she's a journalist for
she's a journalist for Paris Match. She's not the best writer in the universe, but this has got, you know, the voice of truth. The thing that really damages everything is when it's the story of a dinner party, and it's the only dinner party where she takes him to his family, her family, in a council house in Western France, and he's bored to tears, and he doesn't know what to do with these people, and he makes little asides, and and one of the asides is, well, they're not really pretty, are they, all your family? And the other one is, of course, a joke about the toothless being the people who can't afford to go to the dentist. But in many ways, it also means the toothless are weak. They can't harm you. The poor are weak. And then she's got a line in the book somewhere in which she says, of course, he was received at Julie Gaillet's parents' chateau. That's the place where he likes to be, because the actress he was seen sort of dating.
She's the new mistress.
She's the new mistress. So all of this, you know, first of all, is fascinating, and second, you don't make up these things. It's not such a witticism, but you've got this feeling that the elites, and this is where the Le Pen votes, you know, the extremist vote gains ground in France. Is the idea that the elites, left and right in France, not just Hollande, but all these people who went to a few top schools, all these people who know one another, all these people who hire people from the same class at university, in the government, they They don't like the little people. They don't care about the little people. And that is devastating. And that, they really have to turn the economics around for people to forget that.
Corinne Narassigan?
I haven't read the book, and I am not planning.
It's worth reading.
On reading it, really. I think the president answered on some of the content this week in the Nouvel Observateur on what he believes is the most, the most important things to clarify, which is his political identity and his political convictions.
Was he right to grace it with an answer, or should he have ignored it?
I think on these issues he had to, because he was attacked on who he is politically, on his on really what his raison d'être is as a politician, and I think that needed to be clarified. For the rest, about everything else that
but
is...
you haven't read the book, but when you hear Elisabeth Moutié's description, is that the François Hollande that you know?
Everything else about the private... I don't know him enough on a personal level to comment on that. I can't. What I think is that these kind of books in general say a lot more about their author than they say about their subject.
Say a lot more about the author, but would you say, because it is unprecedented to see the institution of the president laid bare,
yes,
will it weaken the institution of the presidency?
It's a very dangerous thing that she did, that she chose to do. She's a political journalist. She knows exactly how hurtful what her book would be, and she chose to do this. So when François Hollande was elected, she first said she didn't really want to have a role. She didn't want to really be first lady, and then she asked for an office and she asked for a staff, and so she wanted to represent France and be an ambassador to France in many countries on many causes, and now she's acting like this, not very citizen-like, not very responsible politically. So as I said, I think this book says a lot more about her than it says about François Hollande.
I'd like to
let me bring in Clémence Sénéchal on this. They say in French, what is it, that all truths are worth telling? Would you say it was right to lay bare the man who runs the country?
Well, I won't comment the content of the book. I just want to point that this is all linked with the logic of the Fifth Republic. You have the one guy that concentrates all those power on his own person, and then you want to know what is going on in the bedroom. And at the end, I think that's contribute to the impoverishment of the public debate, and that nourish the discredit, the political discredit. And I think that this shows the emergency of changing these institutions.
You say that, however, and I'll put this to you, Elisabeth Moutié, there was a French president, Valérie Giscard d'Estaing, who was with his mistress and had a traffic accident, and he went up in the polls after that.
Well, there are ways. I mean, the French are not Americans, and the French they will not mind somebody having affairs, but you've got to do this with a certain degree of panache.
You have to be married first.
Well, and also you have to be married first. But I mean, the story of the milk float is a wonderful story. Valérie Giscard d'Estaing borrowed a Ferrari from the film director Roger Vadim, who had an affair with Brigitte Bardot, was married to Catherine Deneuve and Jane Fonda. We are talking about, somebody 60s. Who really was... Yeah, 60s, the 70s. And in the small hours of the morning, he drives the Ferrari back to the Élysée and he runs into a milk float. Well, if you have to have that kind of an accident, there's a right and a wrong way of doing it, and he was doing it the right way. That was not so much a problem.
François Hollande is a socialist. He was driving a Vespa.
He was not driving a Vespa. He was behind his police, his security agent, and he was wearing a helmet, and he was, he was caught basically with his helmet up and the rest down.
All right. So why is it in this case, as Clément was saying, that there's the idea that it could undermine the office of the presidency?
Who undermines the office of the presidency? Is it the president who cannot make up his mind about political decisions and then gets caught, outside a lover's flat with a helmet on and having his security agent bring the croissant the following morning? And that is really, I tell you, the croissant bit is the thing that shocks me the most. He's got a policeman to it's like the Secret Service in America, to take care of his security. Are these people supposed to come up and carry the croissant? I have a problem with that bit. And I think the croissants have harmed him.
All right. Hollande's popularity sinking, as we were saying, to a new low, but also his unpopularity hitting a new high. We could show you that latest poll by Ipsos for Newsweekly magazine Le Point. However, when you look at the details of the poll, the same can be said not just of François Hollande, but of all politicians on the left, on the right, on the far right. top of Ipsos's list is most popular politician right now in France is the former Prime Minister and the current Mayor of Bordeaux, Alain Juppé. He's a conservative. He's on 49%.
Yep.
However, he's down 6 points. So the most popular politician in France doesn't even get 50% approval rating.
That being said, there are two people that are kind of preserved from that wave, and Nicolas Sarkozy and Marine Le Pen are quite well preserved from that.
Wait, come on. Nicolas Sarkozy's on 40% and Marine Le Pen is in the 30s.
I know. This whole affair, you have this book, you had previously, you had this UMP, you know, the right party here, has been in a huge turmoil because of financial affairs, financial troubles, financial problems. And so the right and the left are in the same boat, so to speak. And the only person who is benefiting from all that is Marine Le Pen. Maybe her image is not that good, but she's the only one that can appear as a kind of an alternative to this old
But hang on
system.
a second. You're saying that she's, again, according to that poll, she's on 32%. Why are all the politicians unpopular?
It's
Because
not
there's a
all
lack of
politicians.
trust.
There's a lack of trust. That's not all politicians. Where you can see differences still between politicians. Alain Juppé is kind of emerging because he's kind of old guy. You know, he's got the wisdom.
He's not emerging according to this. He's down 6 points.
No, I know, but it's kind of preserved from the way he's at 49% still. I mean,
No, but you know, we were asking earlier on, we were asking the question is, this book has demeaned the function of the president? What really demeans the function of the president? And this is something that, you know, takes place before the book actually comes out, is the fact that in the runoff, in the second round of the presidential election, if it were held today, Hollande would lose to Marine Le Pen. That is truly scary. And the other, you know, the other politicians, they don't do terribly well, Sarkozy or Juppé or Fillon, but at least they do not lose to Marine Le Pen.
Going now,
I think I mean, you know, the polls predicted that Balladur would win in '95. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't speculate on what the results would be in 2017. But I think the fact that we see sort of a trend is also, unfortunately, it shows the proximity between what the right wing has become in France and the far right. And the fact,
but the fact that they wouldn't,
they would actually, a lot of them would choose to vote for Marine Le Pen on the second round, which nobody on the left would do. Very few people in the Socialist Party would do. Right.
Half her voters have come from the left.
Well,
Yes.
from the far left, yes, but that's been for a while. That's been already from Jean-Marie Le Pen, and that's been for a while already.
The problem is Marine Le Pen is kind of having the same speech as the Socialist Party used to have. I mean, she is talking social to her people. Not she's not a liberal woman anymore. She's
which is why
socialist.
Which is also where Mélenchon failed in trying to be.
Mélenchon is.
Yes,
I don't want to speak ill of Mélenchon, but
Mélenchon, the leader of the former leader now of your party.
He doesn't know how to talk to the people. I mean, he's elitist in a way.
I think that popularity of Alain Juppé is quite sad at the end.
Yeah,
I mean,
kind
this
of
guy
sad.
is
But
so
again,
old.
it's relative
He's already
popularity.
run this
Sanfi, he
country.
doesn't even have 50%. My question is, if all the politicians are dropping, what does that tell you?
Well, I think that's because we have a democratic crisis at the end.
You're part of a commission that's calling for a sixth republic.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes, I think we have to take care to bring a lot more of attention of our institution. And what is the fact today? We have a guy, a president, who has been elected to fight against the world of the finance and did nothing about it. He did nothing for the workers. He's destroying socialism.
Okay, that's a personal issue. That's a
and
personal issue. But what about, you're saying you're calling for a wholesale change institutionally?
Yes, I think we need a parliament that have the real power, and we need to bring new tools of direct democracy, like citizen initiative.
But as you know, the French are haunted by the post-war period when they had 25 governments in 12 years, and de Gaulle came in and said, "We're going to put an end to this." There was an
we had 3
institutional
governments
crisis.
in 2 years. I mean,
The situation appears to be very unsteady right now. We have two governments in 5 months, and why? What for? Because a minister says something that sounds socialist, and that's the situation right now. The Fifth Republic.
Well, it's a little different because I mean there are basically 3 people who left the government. It's not like there was a major overhaul of the government really.
But they've
compared
been
to 5 months
dismissed
ago.
because they were saying socialist.
Because
stuff.
they were, I think it was
At
more.
least they were paying their taxes. I mean, you can't have everything. You can't have everything.
Corinne Narassiguin, no French president has been re-elected while having a majority in parliament under de Gaulle's Fifth Republic.
Yes.
Why is
yes,
that?
and I think there's because it's very difficult to govern because you have to make the tough decisions, and sometimes the results of your policies don't arrive right away, and they
UK
sometimes
prime
arrive the
ministers
next
get
one.
re-elected, US presidents get re-elected, German chancellors get re-elected.
I think there is a question about the Fifth Republic, definitely. I think there's a question about the fact that we have two heads of the executive. We have the president and the prime minister. So there are definitely questions that we should have about that. There's going to be actually a debate within the Socialist Party about the institutions.
Should there be an institutional reform?
I think it's something that we should definitely do. I don't think that we can do it before 2017, but it's definitely a platform.
Not before 2017.
Because it would require a referendum. It would require. And the risk with the referendum right now would be that people would answer the wrong question. And so the priority should be the economy right now. And so we have to get to the end of the reforms for the economy first. But for the 2017 platform, yes, we do have to think about maybe reforming the institutions. And I think it's gotten even worse compared to what we had before because we have now the 5-year term for the president and for the parliament with the elections at the same time. We don't have like midterms for like they have in the US and
there is no impeachment either.
Yes.
We can't dismiss the president.
Exactly.
We can dismiss the parliament, but
and so it's even more difficult now. I think it's going to be if we continue like this, it's going to be even more difficult for any president to win a second election, second mandate.
Do you see, Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, the Fifth Republic continuing for forever, or do you see this kind of big institutional referendum?
I think things change. I mean, two things change, and the first one is the contraction and the speeding up of political time. And we can talk about Twitter, but Twitter was not quite as powerful in 2012 when Sarkozy and Hollande ran almost neck to neck. And still, I think Sarkozy had not understood that the nature of the game had radically changed in 2007. And that in itself is a big change. And we were asking earlier, should the president have answered? You have to answer today. I quite agree with you, because the idea that if we are above the problem will go away because nobody will talk about it, was predicated on the fairly tame French press and nothing else to let people express themselves. Well, this is over. That's one thing.
You should have answered on TV, not in the newspaper. I mean, it's my newspaper. Okay, we are very glad about the sales, but that's not good for the president.
Let's not talk about style.
Done it on TV.
But the other thing is that the French Republic was actually reformed under Chirac to have to change the 7-year mandate to a 5-year mandate
For the president.
And we didn't notice at the time of Chirac because he'd been in power for a first 7-year mandate, and though the fact that he stayed on just for 5 more years, nobody noticed. But in the way that politics is waged in France, and this was something people did not see the repercussions, and certainly also when Nicolas Sarkozy, who was the first 5-year president from the start, he did not realize how little time he had. And I think that, I'm not sure that the French system, if you touch something, it's like touching a beautiful old house. You do something, the foundations, and then it's shaky and it's not structurally sound anymore. And I think that by reducing the 7-year term to the 5-year term, we've moved it in such a way that we probably will have to do more.
Are you advocating having François Hollande for 7 years instead of 5?
Oh my God.
I don't think one instant of a president is, you should sort of build a republic on that. It worked for de Gaulle, but, he's not de Gaulle. And also, I think, that ship has sailed, and if there is to be reform, it's not to go back to something that existed 20 years ago, but to create something new.
Maybe we should get rid of the prime minister and then have a strong parliament with an impeachment procedure.
Yep.
Otherwise, we should get rid of the president and have the parliament running things. The real normal president would be a non-existent one with a strong parliament. Maybe he should have done that at the beginning. I think he will run on that platform for 2017, on an institutional platform of any kind, which kind we don't know yet. But we have to think about it, because obviously having a weak president, that weak, with institutions that make him strong, that's not working. So we have to think of something else. We can't run the risk to have a second Hollande.
We're in between systems. We're in between the American system and the usual European parliamentary system, and we can't stay that way. It doesn't work anymore.
Either Hollande wants to be a president or not, but he has to choose.
Clément Sénéchal?
I think it's not about just reforming the institution. I think we need to change it all, and I think that we need to bring back the people, the real people on stage, and that's why we need to convene a constituent assembly, I think. And not this is not the thing of the all professional politicians. I think we need to change everything. The abstention, I mean, is so high nowadays, and this is a real point.
Bring back, as you say, the real people. Right now, the only real people, what's enthusing real people right now, is more the far right at this point in time. They're the ones who are galvanized and energized.
Yeah, but this is the risk that needs to be taken if you want to live in a democracy. I think.
Ooh.
No, but he's right. I mean, we have to.
No,
We have been trying to fight against the Front National with everything we got. And it doesn't work. We have to admit that's a political party that should be in parliament.
You know, Assemblée Constituante, I mean, that is something that harks back to the French Revolution. And after the Assemblée Constituante, you get the terror. And then you get
maybe it should be a national dialogue about the institutions.
A lot of other countries, and that was not about the terror.
Last time we had a huge discussion about the European Treaty in 2005. In 2005, there was a huge discussion, a huge debate, a real good one.
Yes, that's right.
Deep one. Okay, they voted against the
European decision. That was a great debate.
But we had a huge debate, and it was nice to have a debate, intellectual debate about something.
Yes.
But it was at a time where the economy was not in such a worrying state that this was the only thing that people would think about. Right now, I don't think we can have an intelligent, serene debate about the institutions when people are just worried about finding a job or making ends meet. It's just too difficult.
You still need politicians to organize the debate somewhere, even though they
have to listen to the people. They have to stop listening to themselves.
Do you trust any of our politicians to do this right?
If Hollande would stop listening only to himself and start listening to the people, it would change things.
You think he can?
I think he can. Yes, he's a human being. Yeah. He has ears. He's got ears.
Wow. Which brings us to another point. Later this week, over the weekend, we'll have the political return of the man that François Hollande ousted, Nicolas Sarkozy. Just like in the U.S., Hillary Clinton is getting ready for a run for president, and perhaps one of the Bushes. How will Nicolas Sarkozy's return weigh on French politics in that respect?
I think he's got to battle. It's a difficult thing because he's a very polarizing personality and he's got very negative figures. He's got a few more positive figures now, but the opposition to Sarkozy is strong, deep-seated, and very, very heartfelt. At the same time, his bet is that when he comes back and he expresses himself, and he's very bright, and he can change, he can look new, that he can flip this around because he's polarizing, but at least people think, okay, this is somebody who has got a punch. So and also he is the one who, whatever polls you take, and there was one which was dubious, but whatever polls you take, is the one who appeals the most to those people who would rather vote for Marine Le Pen than any of the sitting candidates right now. And the fact that he's been so demonized, including by the judiciary, also puts him in the camp of the outsiders, which is interesting considering this is somebody who just was president. So I don't know whether that can work. Quite honestly, to this day, I don't know. But I think his own bet is that he can come in and be more forceful than anybody else we've got on stage right now, and therefore he will be the most interesting candidate. If you look at the figures today, he loses.
The thing is, we would rather have a young, bright guy on any side, let's say on the right side, for instance, to run for president and maybe win. We need some fresh things, fresh figures. There is none working at least for the right voters. So Sarkozy is the only one who can gather his forces and go to the battle, maybe. And the problem being that he is quite unpopular. But, it's good to be hated in a way because it's better than people not caring about you. The opposite of love is not hate, it's not being...
It's indifference.
It's indifference, yes.
All right, though there's never a dull moment in any case with French politics. We're gonna see how it all develops. I want to thank you, Philippe Moreau-Chevrolet, Corinne Narassiguin. I also want to thank Clément Sénéchal and Anne-Elisabeth Moutet. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.